God, we are so grateful that you break through our mundane, ordinary lives and bring love and light to us. Help the reading of your word and the study of your actions in this world do that same breaking through in our lives. May it change us so that we may do your work in the world. Amen. Our reading is from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 2, verses 13 through 23. Listen for the word of God. Now, after they had left, and that is the wise men, an angel of the Lord appeared to Joseph in a dream and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and flee to Egypt, and remain there until I tell you. For Herod is about to search for the child to destroy him." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother by night, and went to Egypt, and remained there until the death of Herod. This was to fulfill what had been spoken by the Lord through the prophet. "Out of Egypt I have called my son." When Herod saw that he had been tricked by the wise men, he was infuriated, and he sent and killed all the children in and around Bethlehem who were 2 years old or under, according to the time that he had learned from the wise men. Then was fulfilled what had been spoken through the prophet Jeremiah. A voice was heard in Ramah, wailing in loud lamentation. Rachel weeping for her children. She refused to be consoled because they are no more. When Herod died, an angel of the Lord suddenly appeared in a dream to Joseph in Egypt and said, "Get up, take the child and his mother, and go to the land of Israel. For those who are seeking the child's life are dead." Then Joseph got up, took the child and his mother, and went to the land of Israel. But when he, Joseph, heard that Archelaus was ruling over Judea in place of his father Herod, he was afraid to go there. And after being warned in a dream, he went away to the district of Galilee. There he made his home in a town called Nazareth, so that what had been spoken through the prophets might be fulfilled. He will be called a Nazarene. This is the word of God. Thanks be to God. It's Christmas. We've been celebrating the coming of the Christ child with pageants and parties and caroling and candlelight. And now on this 5th day of Christmas, the gospel, good news, writer jolts us out of warm images of love, hope, joy, and peace, angels, shepherds, and magi. You see, while this good news story of a king, a new kind of king, was great joy to the majority of God's people, it wasn't good news to King Herod. A new king would be big trouble for him. And after King Herod realized that the wise men he had sent were not going to tell him where the new king of Israel was, he plotted to get rid of this new king in a horrific way, reminiscent of an Egyptian plot centuries earlier. Meanwhile, Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, having just experienced the overwhelming joy of the wise men who had faithfully followed a star to their location, offering gifts and reverence, were settling in for the night. Then Joseph had a dream. An angel of God said to him, "Get up, take the child and his mother, go to Egypt. It is not safe for your child here. Stay there until I say you can return safely." In that moment, the fledgling family was jolted from excited promise to quaking terror, as heavenly peace was disrupted by a foreboding dream. Joseph is warned by an angel that Herod is about to search for the child himself, and this visitor would not be bringing gold or frankincense or myrrh. Herod sought the child not to give homage, but to bring destruction. Herod's fear was in the driver's seat. Fear. Fear can be a good thing, as it was for Mary and Joseph and Jesus. It can alert us to danger and keep us safe. A healthy bit of fear can be a signal to slow down and ponder our next move. Is it really a good idea to walk down this dark alley alone tonight? Healthy fear can inspire us to search for cures for disease and invent life-saving devices and develop coalitions for peace. A healthy bit of fear carried Mary, Joseph, and Jesus away from a political despot, finding sanctuary across the border in Egypt. Herod operated out of fear too, but his fear was unchecked and untamed. He was afraid that this small child would divert attention and praise and power from him, and that could not be tolerated. Herod had quite a history of operating out of fear. He created his own private security force and built fortresses throughout the land so that he was never far from protective walls to keep threats at bay. He violently eliminated perceived rivals when fear overtook him. In fact, not even his own family was safe from his wrath. His own wife and son suffered the deadly consequences of Herod's fear gone unchecked. And now Herod's unchecked fear had made the Son of God, a child, into a refugee. This fear had gone from helpful prompt to dominant decision maker. It is a danger that lies in wait for all of us if we are not careful. This evidence is found throughout history. True, it is unlikely that any one of us will turn into a tyrannical despot, but when we fail to acknowledge the ways we act out of unchecked fear, we perhaps unknowingly perpetuate anxiety that leads to injustice. Here's how. When we anthropomorphize fear, when we pull out a chair and invite it to sit at the table, when fear becomes our advisor, we become paralyzed. Our voices can't speak out for justice because we fear retribution. Our ears cannot hear others as they call out for fear our reputations will be soiled by association. We do not seek forgiveness and reconciliation for fear we will be denied. We do not forgive for fear we will be hurt again. Embodied fear promotes self-preservation. Embodied fear retreats to seclusion. Embodied fear promotes exclusion. Embodied fear prefers the way we've always done it. Embodied fear hoards power. Embodied fear breeds hate. Embodied fear shuns difference. Embodied fear creates refugees. Embodied fear cages children. Embodied fear authors redlining. Embodied fear makes others of everyone. Fear unchecked is passed down from generation to generation. In the case of Mary, Joseph, and Jesus, when they finally receive word it is safe to return to Judea, they discover that Herod's unchecked fear was now embodied in his son, Archelaus. True to form, the fear was passed down in the family. According to Matthew, then, Jesus lives his full childhood as a refugee, fleeing from Judea to Egypt, then briefly from Egypt to Judea, and finally from Judea to Galilee, staying for years in preparation for his public ministry. I would like to share a quote I found about fear that strikes a familiar chord. Quote, "In these days of terrifying change, bitter international tension, and chaotic social disruption, who has not experienced the paralysis of crippling fear? Everywhere there are people depressed and bewildered, irritable and nervous, all because of the monster of fear, like a nagging hound of hell. Fear follows our every footstep, leaving us tormented by day and tortured by night." This quote sounds like something that could be clipped from today's editorial page. It is, in fact, excerpted from a sermon delivered by the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. in 1963. 5 short years later, Reverend Dr. King Jr. would die a victim of embodied fear. This is nothing new. And it hasn't gone away. But here is the good news. Fear does not have to go unchecked. God's great love for us is embodied love. Jesus Christ, the Redeemer of the world, present before the world began, and Word of life to all creation. Embodied love was sent by God, in and through the Holy Spirit, fully human, fully divine. He walked the earth teaching that a different type of kingdom was at hand. This new kingdom was unlike those of human design. It upended human ideas of hierarchy. He led by example, eating with outcasts, feeding the hungry, and freeing the oppressed. Many did not like his actions and sought to kill him. He was crucified and buried, a sacrifice for the sins of all humankind and an unequaled act of grace and love. He rose on the 3rd day, demonstrating his power and divinity, a hope for all humankind. It is through Christ, through this embodied love, that God defeats the power of fear. And as we wait for the final completion of the kingdom of God, it is our call to be the hands and feet of embodied love, which means we must gather the courage to look into what motivates us and stand up to any unchecked fear that rears its ugly head. As Reverend Dr. King said, the more we attempt to ignore and repress our fears, the more we multiply our inner conflicts and cause the mind to deteriorate into a slum district. When we say it can't be us, we are in denial. We all have fear. We must not let it go unchecked. So, we must pull out a chair and invite embodied love to have a seat at our table. What happens when embodied love is invited to sit at the table? What happens when love becomes our advisor? Our voices become loosed, our hearts become open and full of courage. Embodied love cares less about whether we have enough matching place settings at the table and more about how many mouths we can feed at it. Embodied love is God with us. Embodied love overflows with grace. Embodied love welcomes without caveat. Embodied love abandons comfort zones. Embodied love opens our imaginations. Embodied love moves us into action. Embodied love does the work. Embodied love casts out fear. Embodied love radiates hope. Embodied love strives for equity. Embodied love sings out courage. Embodied love lights the world. Sometimes we need reminders of this. There are two verses that I intend to hold in my pocket. One is 1 John 4:18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and one who fears is not perfected in love. The second, for God has given us a spirit of fear. He has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. 2 Timothy 1:7. To be honest with you, much of this sermon came out of my own struggle to identify my fears. I've been trying to teach myself to examine why I make the choices I make, to be alerted to when fear is controlling my decisions. Why do I choose not to speak out? Is it fear? Why do I choose not to be generous? Perhaps it's because of fear. But friends, there is hope in love. And when embodied love faces fear, love wins every time. In a few minutes, we will be singing, "Hark the Herald Angels Sing, Jesus, the Light of the World." And as we stand and sing it together, let the love and light of the Christ child wash over you. Let it empower you to be the hands and feet of embodied love every day as you walk and work and share and play in this world. Let us pray. God of unending love, move in us. Be our motivation, be our advisor. Guide us as we work to be your love in this world, so that Jesus Christ, good news to the world, would be glorified. Amen.